I don't like to fail. That is not, that is not something that I enjoy. That is not something that I necessarily embrace for myself. I'm always trying to be, the best that I can be, and I personally don't take failure particularly well. And I think when I look back on that was a failure for me.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark Tuxford and welcome to my podcast, People Behind Brands, brought to you by Making Websites Better. In each episode, I'm joined by an inspirational guest to hear more about their individual life lessons and how it shaped them into who they are today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to our exclusive content now and follow us on our social media platforms. People Behind Brands, life lessons from the world of business. In a completely unfiltered chat, Georgia Cox talks to us about her young entrepreneurial journey. Learning from toxic experiences at previous roles to building and founding a new business, IAMH Global, at the age of just 25, Georgia candidly opens up about her struggles and fear of failure along the way. Despite a past and unfulfilling career in digital marketing, Georgia joined Wellity, the world's leading consultancy for workplace training, and finally found the passion she so desperately craved. During which time, Georgia has been nominated as a 2024 Rising Star of the Year Finalist, Great British Businesswoman, and We Are the City Awards. Organised and meticulous in her approach, this is an individual that will go far in her career. It's great to catch up with an old friend and colleague as she discusses her own life lessons from the world of business and how her own experiences have helped organisations with their own mental health processes today.
Georgia, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. Really great to have you on. So today we welcome Georgia Cox, co-founder and managing director of the recently formed IAMH Global, International Advocate for Mental Health. At just 25 years of age, Georgia is driving the company from inception to market, exemplifying the strategic vision of Gen Z. Georgia has built the bulk of her career as the head of operations at Wellity Global, a position she still holds today. During which time, Georgia has been nominated as a 2024 Rising Star of the Year finalist, Great British Businesswoman, and We Are the City Awards. I've known Georgia personally for some time now, having worked with her previously as she got started in the world of work. So it was a great opportunity to get her on the podcast and showcase her life lessons from the world of business and look back on just how far she's come in a short space of time. I should probably start with how we know each other. So we had a lot of laughs along the way, obviously working at a different agency at the time. I remember obviously at Christmas time, your nan made us some sandwiches.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. It's very good sandwiches, and they're very nice lady. So yeah, if she's listening, thank you.
I'll tell her that.
So yeah, but yeah, first question. Perhaps you can take us back to how you got started in your career, where you were obviously running the social media and digital marketing areas that the company was working at. So what did you learn in those experiences back then?
I think well, I mean, as we was just talking about, it was a difficult time. It wasn't a particularly good time. But when I think back to the company, the lessons that were learned, I don't necessarily think I'd change anything, because I think it taught me a lot about business. It taught me a lot about how not to act in a business. It was difficult because it was the first proper job that I'd had out of sixth form. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't really know what path I wanted to go down. I think I chose not to do university because I was sick of studying, really. But I think as soon as you say, like, in a sixth form environment, I don't want to study anymore, or university is not for me, there is just such a lack of support there for people, because you don't contribute to their numbers anymore. You're not a statistic for them, because in their mind, you've failed, really, because you've not gone onto the further education path, which I think is really unfair, because a lot of people have had enough of studying by that point. And I didn't see any point of going to university if I didn't know what course I wanted to do, because then you're spending money and wasting money for the lifestyle when you don't know what you want to do afterwards. And it just felt pointless. It felt like I would be going for the wrong reasons. But I think there was such a lack of support there from the school for people that didn't want to go to university, and there was such a select few of us. I remember there only being like 5 or 6 of us out of the whole group that chose not to go to university. So I think we were kind of just like pushed aside and left to figure things out on our own. And so then when you go away and you're looking for jobs, but you don't really have a huge amount of experience, you're then looking at entry level jobs, but there wasn't a huge amount around at the time because a lot of companies want you to have experience to then invite you in for an interview. So where do you even start? And then a lot of companies also wanted you to have a degree to also get an interview. So then again, where do you start? And I think, you know, the job that we both found ourselves in was the only one that was kind of taking on, I think they phrased it as an apprentice, but it definitely wasn't an apprentice role because there was no qualification there at all. And that was the only place that I could get into at the time in marketing. And I think that wasn't necessarily something that I was hugely passionate about, I wouldn't say, but it was something that I knew. I think a lot of us knew. I mean, digital marketing was quite a new thing at the time.
Yeah.
I think it was quite a key word. A lot of people thought that was going to be great for career progression. It was good to start. And like I say, it was an entry level job and it felt like something that I could be good at, that I would know. And so that was kind of where I decided to start.
You mentioned obviously about not really having so much of a passion for digital marketing at the time. That didn't sort of come across to me like that, obviously, because I worked with you in the same team. But you did feel that you were passionate about it. You wanted to get the right results for the clients. And one thing I always noticed when working with you was just how meticulous you were in your approach, whether that be with the team that we were in or the clients you were providing those services to. So where do you think that mindset came from?
I think probably family has quite a lot to do with it. I think when you're brought up in the environment of, you know, mum and dad going out to work for long hours, you know, putting in a lot of grind. I think when you're brought up around that environment, that's going to naturally have a knock-on effect to you. And I think that was just what I felt was not expected of me, but you know what I mean? Like I felt like that was what I needed to do. That was where I needed to be. To just go out and get it and work long hours to get to where I needed to be. So I think, yeah, your environment and your upbringing has such a huge impact on how you perceive the world of work and what you want to be doing. And I think we talk about this a lot at work, but I just think cultures now are so different. Like when I think back to when I was growing up, I mean, social media wasn't as prevalent as it is now. I think, you know, the younger generation have got such easy access to like TikTok and things like that. And the expectations of a work environment and what work should look like now is just so different to when we were first entering the world of work. You know, there's so much on there at the moment. I was talking to a client yesterday actually about it, when like you see like TikTok influencers that will go in and they'll have like a breakfast bar and they'll have like a 5-minute meeting, do 5 minutes of work and then go home, and people think that that's what work is and that's what's expected of them. But it's just I think, yeah, your environment has such a huge impact, and I think it is concerning thinking about the younger generation that are growing up in the world now and the access that they have to TikToks that are going out and posts on Instagram that are going out, and what they're then going to come into the working world expecting versus the reality. I think it's going to be quite a shock for a lot of them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's different, especially on social media, because I think the influencer market has grown a lot since then. Yeah. Obviously, AI has come into it as well. So there's lots of different topics that we weren't really privy to, and that we didn't really have the knowledge in at that time. So yeah, I do get that. But I know you've had obviously other roles, obviously, since we both worked at Universal Web Design. Obviously, you went on to move to Fuse, providing obviously digital services again. So what made you want to go in a different path and eventually join, you know, the company that you're part of now, which is Wellity?
So I think, I mean, I'm sure we'll come on to this later, but I think leaving Universal, again, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think, I mean, I wrote a post about it the other day, but I think it's very easy for everybody to say, you know, what's your passion? Go and find your passion and follow your passion. But when you don't know what that is, I think it's really hard to know what the next best step is for you. And I think, again, it's very easy for people to say, find your passion. But then when there are a million different things that you can try, but you've not got a million different options to go into, like what option do you choose, knowing if that's going to be right or wrong for you? And I think I kind of felt then stuck in the marketing side of things because I didn't really know any different. That was what I knew. And again, then when you're applying for other jobs and companies say that they want experience, or even if you have a little inkling of, you know, what kind of path you want to go down, but again, all of your previous jobs stack up to be marketing experience based, it's then really hard to navigate into a different industry. So I think, yeah, so leaving Universal, I then went on to, again, a couple more marketing roles, more in-house than agency because, well, I mean, Universal had such a negative experience on everybody that worked there from an agency point of view. So I think a lot of us steered clear of agency work for a while, but I then went in-house to see if it was just agency that wasn't a right fit for me rather than marketing. Again, I think it wasn't. It was marketing that I didn't feel hugely passionate about, and I knew it might have been fine for the moment, but I didn't want to continue that long term. So again, it was putting a lot of pressure on myself to try and figure out what route I wanted to go down. So then it kind of came about through those different jobs, and I think again, you have to go through different jobs to find out what it is specifically that you like doing and what you don't. But then again, the flip side of that and the danger of that is that companies will look at your CV and see that you've job hopped around, but then that has a negative effect on you as well because they think that you can't sustain a job. So then you're kind of balancing between, do I job hop to try and find what I'm passionate about, or am I forced to to stick in the lane that I'm in because I don't want it to reflect badly on me? So that was kind of the weighing up that I had to do, and that I was kind of to and fro in between. But somewhere along the way, I found not necessarily a passion, but I was more interested in. I'd done a little bit of like personal work for a lot of the directors that I'd worked for, so I kind of found a bit of a passion in, personal assistant work and organisation. I was always strong at organisation and that kind of thing anyway, rather than the actual doing. So I think I tried to lean into that and figure out what kind of roles I could get from that. But again, that was really, really hard, a really hard market to try and get into. I think people will think that even assistant work is, just go and get an assistant job, but that's a really hard industry to get into. So I did a course in London, like a PA assistant course in London, to try and help me get my foot in the door. And it was quite an extensive course. It took me a long time to complete. But I got a diploma in that, and then thought that would then allow me to get into the door of a lot of companies for an exec or for a personal assistant position. But that didn't work either because I didn't have that physical work experience that they were looking for. But then, managed to find Wellity at the right time for me. And I was very, very fortunate because that role was a bit of a dual role. Of sort of personal assistant work, but then also marketing as well, because they were fairly newly established at the time. So I was lucky that I had my marketing experience because that allowed me to get my foot in the door for them, and then I could then develop my personal assistant experience there as well. So I think then when I look back, I'm glad that I had the marketing experience, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to land that position.
As we come on to Wellity now, you can talk to us about the type of organisation and services that Wellity is known for and the types of clients you provide those services to.
Yeah, so Wellity are a workplace training company, training consultancy. So we provide all different types of employee and leadership training programs to a huge range of clients globally. We work with clients on a national and a global scale. We've got clients like Royal Foundation that we work closely with, the Met Police, Moe, Warner Brothers, the ambulance service we do a lot with. So the clients really are fantastic, and it's so amazing to see what these, large corporates are doing and how they're affecting their employees and what they're doing to support them. But I think it's such an interesting position to be in when you compare where we both first started and the really toxic environment that we were first in comparison to now, and all of the amazing work that Wellity are doing, and how we're kind of the shoes on the other foot because we're supporting those employees and making sure that they don't have to experience that kind of environment. So I think the full circle is really, really interesting when you look back at where we both first started to now.
Yeah, and I think it helps that obviously you've had that kind of negative experience. Nobody wants that, obviously, but it helps when you are then providing those services to your Wellity clients. So yeah, I get that. I don't suppose you've kind of ever thought when we worked together that you would be nominated as a finalist for individual awards that I mentioned earlier. So it's a great achievement, and I'm sure you can look on those nominations as a testament to just how far you've come personally. So how do you feel about those recognitions?
I never really saw myself as somebody that would ever be nominated for anything like that, let alone ever be shortlisted. So yeah, I mean, it's a really, really lovely thing, and a lovely honour. Yeah, it doesn't kind of feel like something that I would be worthy of still, you know. I think it takes a while for things like that to sink in, but that was never my, you know, I was never, you know, younger and like, oh yeah, I really want to be, you know, a finalist in awards. That was never kind of, I've always much more preferred sitting in the background and, you know, doing things behind the scenes. So yeah, it's interesting seeing yourself in that position, but I would never have expected it, no.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is obviously down to the environment you're working in and the people that surround you now. And as we know, that's a very important thing to have in whatever job or career that you're doing. So obviously your recent announcement has seen you become co-founder and managing director of the recently formed IAMH Global, which I mentioned earlier. So talk to us about how this came about for you.
So it's been in the works for a while for us. And I think given the work that we do, we really saw a gap in the market for it. There's a lot of support for employees, but there's not really a kind of global offering for mental health first aid. And so yeah, we really saw a gap in the market for it, and we've run a lot of global pilots for it, and it's a product that's gone down really, really well, because it's a mental health first aid product, but it means that companies globally can run the same course for all of their employees rather than, you know, regionally based. It can be run in any language, in any country. So it's such a versatile product, and it really fits to all of the pain points that our global clients come to us and they're talking about all the time. So yeah, I think we saw it as a really opportune time to launch something like that. And I've been really close to the development of it throughout, you know, thinking from initial creation, content, global pilots to now. So I think it made sense for me as well in the next step of my career and what that was going to be. I think, yeah, we started talking about it a long time ago, but yeah, I think it's always important to be continuously thinking about your next steps for you, like personally as well as professionally. And where you want to be. And although you might kind of be settled in your role, it's always important to think about what the next steps are and making sure that you're constantly striving for that next step. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of where it culminated. And yeah, it's doing really, really well, which is amazing. Yeah, and it's nice to see the impact that we have to employees on that global scale, like you say, particularly given where we first started and making sure that nobody else has to experience that.
Yeah, so is this new brand, is this obviously a part of Wellity? Is it like a sister company, or is it sort of a little bit different?
So it's a standalone company, and there's definitely crossover in terms of it being a mental health first aid or a mental health product. But yeah, it is a standalone product in itself. It's his own course, it's his own individual course. So yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I mentioned earlier about the team that are there kind of supporting you. So from the outside, it appears that your, you know, fellow co-founders, Sadie Restrick and Simon Scott Nelson, really value everything you've given to Wellity previously, and obviously now into this kind of new venture. So tell us about how much of an impact they've had on you throughout your young career and reaching, you know, the point today, because it seems like it seems like a family almost.
Yeah, no, definitely, it definitely is. Yeah, they've been amazing. I think, you know, it's very much about right place, right time, and I think it just did align for all of us. You know, I came into the company at a point when we were just kind of getting started, and the growth since, when I look back over the last 2 years, has just been absolutely phenomenal. And I think, like you say, they've been such a huge part of that for their constant belief and growth and encouragement. And that we have even like a saying at Wellity about how we all approach failure, and that failure is just your first attempt in learning. And I think they're both so open and honest as co-founders, and the team is just absolutely brilliant as well. And like you say, it is a family. We're all so supportive of each other. And I think they're just very, very good at creating that environment to allow you to grow, to allow everybody to take ownership over their own tasks, their own responsibilities, and just take them off in a direction that they feel is going to work. And try new things, because if you don't try, then you don't know.
So as you take your first steps into creating your own company, but using that meticulous approach that we spoke about earlier and experience today, so where do you see yourself in 10 years, or even with the new company? What achievements are you looking to hit in that time?
I think that's a difficult question. 10 years feels like a lifetime away. And I think at the moment, it's very much about taking it day by day. And I think as long as we're having the impact that we want to have on our clients, on, employees across the globe, that's the most important thing for us. So really the main thing is growth for us, and just seeing how many lives that we can impact along the way. That's such a huge thing. But excited for the journey and to see where it goes. Yeah,
very much so. So when you consider your purpose on a personal level, what would you say is your mission in life, or your kind of why for doing what you do?
I think, again, it probably all comes back to where we first started, and just making sure that, or doing our best to make sure that nobody else kind of goes through that, or making sure that they have support options available to them if they feel like that, or they're going through a really tough period of time. Because when I look back at Universal and where we were, there was no support. There was nobody to go to for help other than each other. And so I think the more we can equip people with the knowledge on how to support their colleagues, their employees, their friends, the better. So that nobody kind of feels stuck. Nobody doesn't know where to turn. Everybody's always got a support option available to them. And even, with Wellity, about creating that work-life balance, making sure that you're fulfilled outside of work as well as inside of work, and just doing all you can to be your best self, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. So our podcast is founded upon honesty and how testing times have impacted our personal lives. So away from business, obviously creating your own brand, all that sort of stuff. Can you tell us about a challenging time in your life that made you who you are today?
I think it's a difficult one, because I'm sure there's been many, and I'm sure this isn't even that dramatic, but we were talking earlier about when I left Universal and kind of what I felt. We were saying that you never really felt like you could leave, because you felt like you would just be manipulated almost to kind of come back. Like there never really felt like there was an escape or a way out. So I remember that I booked probably in a moment of madness, a solo traveling trip. And that was my reason for leaving. I didn't have anything lined up for when I would be back. That was kind of my way out. And I think I was so focused on leaving that I hadn't really actually considered what it was that I'd booked, or if I was actually ready for that myself, because I was so young. Like when we was there, I didn't really have any real life experience at that point. So I booked it, went on it, and then ended up coming home after like a week or something. I got Dad to book me a flight back because I just had enough, and I was not enjoying it at all. And I think for me personally, I have such I don't like to fail. That is not, that is not something that I enjoy. That is not something that I necessarily embrace for myself. I'm always trying to be, the best that I can be. And I personally don't take failure particularly well. And I think when I look back on that, that was a failure for me, because I didn't carry through with it and I didn't continue. But I think the lessons that taught me in hindsight, again, if I could go back, I wouldn't change it, because I think, you know, it teaches you that that's okay. Not everything is going to be best for you. And I think at that period of time, a lot of people were, you know, going away traveling and finding themselves on their trips. And, you know, you hear that all the time and you think, yeah, I'm going to do that and that's going to be great for me. But just because it works for everybody else doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the best thing for you. And it wasn't for me. You know, I realised what a family person I am and how much I enjoyed my home comforts, and that wasn't a lifestyle for me. But again, if I hadn't have left university at that time, if I hadn't have gone on that trip, would I be where I am now? Because I wouldn't have taken that specific path that I did to get me to where I am now. So I think, you know, for myself and for a lot of people out there, it's so important to look back on anything that might not have gone the particular way that you wanted, but to then look where you are now. And if you hadn't have taken that path, you might not have ended up where you are now. And you know, for me, I'm very, very fortunate to be in the position that I'm in and to love what I do. And if you haven't gone through that failure, then would you be where you are now?
You're 25, Georgia, right? And, you know, let's not hide away from the fact that that is still quite a young age to be doing what you're doing. So that's why it's such a more of an impressive achievement, what you're doing. So how much of an impact does these early days of creating a business, working in Wellity still, you know, how much of an impact does that have on you as a person, your personal life, time with family, your friends, your boyfriend, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's really, really tough. And I think there's been a lot of sacrifice, particularly in the last couple of years. But I think it all depends on what sort of person you are. And I think there's that age-old debate of, you know, live to work versus work to live. And I think a lot of people, you know, they're perfectly happy going to their 9 to 5, and that's where they draw the line. And you know, they have those really firm boundaries. And I think that's really, really important for a lot of people. And I know a lot of my friends are like that. And, you know, their life is very much outside of work rather than being inside of work. But I think finding the balance is tough, especially when you're in, you know, a growing business and then, you know, MD and trying to launch a business. You know, there's going to be sacrifice. And it is difficult to get that balance right. And I have, you know, there's a lot of early mornings, there's a lot of late nights. And I understand that that's not right for some people. And, you know, I'll have a lot of conversations with friends who say, you know, that's just not their idea of fun. They would never do that. They would never consider like them wanting to do that. They want a hard stop at 5 and that's it for them. They don't even think about work going into the weekend. And I think I've had jobs like that before, but that doesn't suit me. I think I am very much somebody that is all about work. And, you know, some people might say that that's not healthy, but I think everybody is different and it's really important to understand that. And I mean, I was listening to a George Heaton podcast the other day, and he was saying, you know, that his 3 pillars in his life are family, fitness and business. And I think that's something that I, you know, really, really relate to. You know, I make sure there's time for family. I make sure there's time for me to go to the gym, because I think that has such an impact on my mental health that I've really, you know, realised over the last couple of years that if I don't get to the gym, then I'm a completely different person, you know. And yeah, business, I do spend a lot of hours at work, and I am working, you know, weekends, evenings, early mornings. But for me personally, I wouldn't necessarily have that any other way. I think that works for me. And at the time in my life that I'm in now, I think I'm really dedicating that to business and to growth. Whereas I know a lot of people will want to dedicate it to, you know, some people want to get engaged and some people want to have children, and that's fine. And I think everybody's different. But yeah, for me, I think it's definitely been difficult. It's not been easy. But, you know, the best things never are easy.
No, they're not. And I think listening to you today, you know, it seems to me that you've discovered that passion that you've been searching for, you know, certainly up to this point in your career, really. You've gone from kind of marketing in agencies, working on different sort of projects, doing kind of marketing for sole businesses and all those sort of things. But, you know, obviously Wellity's given you that opportunity to grow. And I think you found that calling, I guess. That's what you found as your calling. So, yeah. And just touching upon, obviously, family, because knowing you for quite a long time now, I know your core values really have come from a supportive unit, which has been your mum and dad. Obviously, they've been incredibly supportive of you. Obviously, you've been with Luke now for God knows how many years. So how much of these relationships, you know, how much do they impact you?
Massively. I think it's really, really important to have those and to maintain those. I think, you know, they understand how busy it is and how, you know, I will cancel last minute or I will have to work late. And I think it's important to have people around you that understand that and understand where your passion is. And they do that for me. And even since moving out, you know, they've been such a huge support for me, and they'll listen when, you know, I'm going through moments of crisis, or, you know, you just need somebody to vent to, you know, they're my listening ears. And I think it's really, really important to have those outside of business and those people that you can confide in, not even because they necessarily understand the business or what it is that you're actually going through, but it's just having those people that are there to listen and to offer their advice and their support, and even to just, you know, do things outside of work as well. That's really, really important. But yeah, to always maintain those, you know, I go home for dinner a couple of nights a week and we'll spend really quality time with them. And I think it's something that's probably got better since I've moved out, because, you know, when you live at home, it's very much, you know, ships passing through the night, and there's not that quality time there because you're all moving from one place to the other. But I think I've really preferred how our relationship has developed, particularly with, you know, my mum and my dad and my nan over the last, you know, year or so since I have moved out, because you make that conscious effort to see them, to sit down with them, to spend time with them, and to have, you know, conversations rather than just popping in and out. But yeah, really, really important.
I think you appreciate their time though, isn't it? Like, you're not stuck with them all the time. It's like you're spending time with them, your time when you want to spend time with them, because you want to, and it's about appreciating. I think you kind of look back when you get to a certain age, or you certainly get older, you appreciate what those people have done for you, what support they've been, certainly. So this is where it gets interesting, Georgia. It's the trivia round. So quick fire questions for you. Had some very interesting answers from multiple guests. So we'll start with the first question. Favorite food?
Okay, so this changes frequently, but at the moment, poached eggs.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
I
don't mind that. Yeah. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Cocktail, Sex on the Beach.
Yeah, nice. Favorite band or artist from the world of music?
Again, changes frequently, but at the moment, Teddy Swims.
Nice. Favorite TV program or film?
Comfort TV program has to be The Office, the US version, and all-time favorite TV series is Handmaid's Tale.
Nice. When we was working together, I know he's a massive fan of Love Island. Is that still on your house?
No, it's not. No, I don't think it's as good anymore. Nothing will ever top, you know, the first couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Favorite place in the world?
The Lake District.
Nice. Favorite famous person?
Again, changes frequently, but at the moment, I am very obsessed with George Heaton, who's founder of Represent Clothing. I think he's brilliant.
Is it because you see that kind of business journey there as well, but you also, you know, probably like some of his content that he's putting out as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think his story and his journey is really, really interesting. And just the things that he speaks about on, like, you know, the podcast that he does about, you know, his discipline, his fitness, I think is really, really interesting from a position of director, definitely.
Yeah. Biggest pet peeve?
Slow drivers.
Slow drivers?
Slow drivers.
It's George's road, get out of the way. Any superstitions?
Don't walk over 3 drains.
Yeah, I've got one of those actually. Yeah. I agree with that.
I don't really know why or where that came from.
No, I know it's quite an old one though, isn't it?
And if you do walk over them, you have to say toast.
Yeah, that's funny that, because I've heard people say you have to say a certain word or certain term after it, but
Yeah,
it's all very different.
it's
Yeah,
different.
I haven't heard toast though. I might give that one a try. Um, biggest achievement?
Become a director.
Yeah. Favorite memory of your life so far?
That was a tough one, but I think up there has to be having afternoon tea with Deborah Meaden.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What would you say inspires you on a daily basis?
Probably what we do and who we're helping. Definitely.
Yeah. Best piece of advice you've been given?
I don't know if I've ever been given it, but I've read it. And it's motivation is what gets you started. Discipline is what keeps you going.
Yeah, good quote. And this is one that people sort of struggle with slightly, but 3 guests you would invite to a dinner party.
So I would say, and this is purely because of my obsession with The Office, but I would say Steve Carell, John Krasinski, and Rainn Wilson.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Look, Georgia, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. I do feel a sense of pride watching you grow, knowing you're fully deserving of all of your accomplishments in life. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And I do wish you the best of luck with your new venture. So perhaps you would like to tell everyone about the new business in your own words, and maybe sort of touch upon a little bit of Wellity as well and where they can find you.
Absolutely. So the new business is IAM, International Advocate for Mental Health. We're the world's first accredited and globally inclusive workplace mental health advocate program. So in short, we're basically a global mental health first aid product. We're available in all countries, all languages, really, really great for global teams who want to have, more of a structured global approach to mental health awareness for their employees rather than a regionalized approach. It's a fantastic training. We've had so many good testimonials, 100% recommendation rate so far, which is awesome. You can find us at www.iamhglobal.com. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can email us info@iamglobal.com. Love to hear from you.
Perfect. Thank you, Georgia.
So that's it for this episode of People Behind Brands. If you like what you heard today, do yourself a favour, subscribe to our exclusive content now, and follow us on our social media when you search People Behind Brands podcast or at podcast PBB. Join us next time for a brand new guest as we explore more life lessons from the world of business. We'll see you soon. Ta-da!